Whatever its source, true statements remain valid, even if hurled in anger. Now just in a normal speaking voice, softer. My mind is open to the truth. Whatever its source. True statements remain valid, even if hurled in anger. Now just in a soft whisper. My mind is open to the truth. Whatever its source. True statements remain valid, even if hurled in anger. Now taking it deep into the subconscious, just repeat this time now, silently, mentally only within. My mind is open to the truth, whatever its source. True statements remain valid, even if hurled in anger. And finally, having your focus up at the spiritual eye, the point between the eyebrows, feel that you're immersed in the superconsciousness behind these words, that you emerge into the vibration, the magnetism of the essence of this affirmation. So tune into it by being with it more. My mind is open to the truth, whatever its source. True statements remain valid, even if hurled in anger. Then mentally, silently, follow me with this prayer. Divine Mother, let me hear thy melodies everywhere, in the laughing brooks, in the songs of nightingales, yes, even in the roar of city traffic. Behind all earthly sounds, let me listen for thy voice alone. Om, peace, Amen. Now we'll have our reading.
This reading is taken from Rays of the One Light, by weekly commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda. This week, the title is Faith is a Call to Prayer, Prayer is a Call to Faith. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. In the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapters 7 and 21, we read, Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. Verily I say unto you, if you have faith, and doubt not, if ye shall say unto this mountain, Be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea, it shall be done. And all things whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing, ye shall receive. Paramahansa Yogananda showed by his own example that prayer is a power, provided we believe deeply in that power. When our thoughts and feelings are strongly focused and then united in growing awareness to the divine presence within, they can bring even seemingly unrealistic wishes to fulfillment. When Paramahansa Yogananda was in charge of his school in Ranchi, India, he took the boys on occasional outings to the surrounding countryside. There was a waterfall not far away, he told Swami Kriyananda, where I took them sometimes. It was dangerous to cross there, but I would cry out to the boys, Do you believe in God? Yes, they would shout back enthusiastically, and so we always crossed in safety. Years later, after I'd gone to America, one of the teachers tried to do the same thing, but he lacked spiritual power. One of the boys slipped on a rock and was drowned. Thus the master explained, belief alone is not enough. It must be united to one-pointed awareness, which leads to self-realization. The Bhagavad Gita in the sixth chapter underscores the necessity for such one-pointed concentration. Whenever the mind, fickle and restless, wanders off from its concentration, let the meditating yogi withdraw it resolutely, spurning every distraction, no matter how alluring, and bring it back again and again under the control of the self. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
So welcome to everyone. Welcome to this wonderful time together at Ananda here in Dallas, or in Richardson, or in Texas, wherever we are. But it's a joy to see so many of you. I've been friends with many of you for many years, and some of you are new to me, but equally so, my heartfelt appreciation to all of you who's there. So I'd like to read to you from Paramahansa Yogananda's book of Prayer Demands. O Father, my little prayers are all roused in reverence, waiting for Thee. My little joys dance in tune with the temple bells of inner harmony. The muffled drum of my craving beats deeply for Thee. My passion and my ignorance wait tremblingly to be sacrificed on Thine altar. I shall say my prayers with mystic beads made of my crystal teardrops, and polished with my love for Thee. I shall cleanse the altar of my heart with my repentance. Come, I long for Thy presence. I should also extend a welcome to those watching online. We always have to remember that wherever we are at Ananda, we're always streaming it one way or the other. So I want to share a brief story I read the other day that I don't know if it'll fit into what I'm going to say, but I thought I'd share it. That a father is taking his 16-year-old daughter to the bank for her to open a bank account, a checking account for the first time. And the bank representative is asking the usual questions to get information. And at one point he says, could I get your street name? And she froze. And the father was kind of wondering, and he volunteered the information. And then she said, oh, I didn't know what you meant by that. I thought you meant what cool alias or nickname I had on the street. The street cred, you know. She thought, maybe Batgirl. And this is what happens to us, really, in life always, is that, but spiritually more so, we have nuances and subtleties that maybe we're not really understanding this in the right way. You know, we misunderstand, we misrepresent. You know, it's like the telephone game, you know, we play as children, that, you know, by the time it circles around a group of children, it's an unusual saying compared to what the first saying was. You know, it's not even close. And that happens to us even though we don't pay attention to it, but that kind of situation is there, it does happen, and what it does, it really starts to undermine us from always being in truth, in being in Dharma. And it's not that it's a big thing, but really our lives are destined to always refine and grow to a deeper experience, to not be satisfied with what is happening, although we can be content, but not be satisfied. And that seems confusing to a lot of people, that those two distinctions, that distinction between those two things is something we would say. But satisfaction is that part of us that says, yeah, things are okay, kind of from that attitude. You know, it's like when I was in grade school, that the report cards were which was the nemesis of children. It would have, you know, excellent, very good, good, satisfactory, bad. But, you know, if you got satisfactory, it wasn't quite right, even though it wasn't the worst. And that idea that satisfaction, just okay with things, contentment is a powerful magnetic alignment of really tuning into saying, this is what the reality outside of myself is. Can I move the energy in myself to deepen that experience and be more conscious and more aware? And maybe that will have effect on people. For instance, I just got a message yesterday evening about a dear friend of a lot of us at Ananda, Krishna, who is the one that deals with Treasures Along the Path, which is the recordings of Swami Kriyananda through the ages. And she's been dealing with some unusual symptoms, a lesion in the top of her skull into her brain. And we were waiting for the diagnostics from it, but she's been having some episodes where one side of her body is not functioning, and they thought it might be mini strokes or a stroke or something like that. But the message unfortunately said this time that she was actually at the hospital and she went into a non-response mode. And I haven't heard since, but it's one of those things where I immediately offered a healing prayer. And what I realized time and time again in healing prayers for people, it's not to heal them in that physical mode. It's to allow their soul to be completely in that healing. Whether that person, my dear friend, leaves her body, and she may have overnight, that isn't a lack of healing. It just isn't the body following through. But I feel in her that she is whole and healed. And the circumstances may be that her karma, her situation, were that it wasn't the time to continue in the body in that way. But that's where prayer and faith, you can see what I'm offering you, sharing with you, is that prayer isn't intended so much to expect something. Although Yogananda, interestingly, as I said, called this book of prayers, Whispers from Eternity, prayer demands. And what he meant by that was that we're demanding from the soul nature that we're a child of the divine to be in the natural state of harmony with the divine. So that's the demand throughout all of the different expressions. But what we can do to shift from just prayer and belief into that faith is to nurture the divine response, whatever it might be in its expression. You know, to label it good or bad is really not helpful to our journey. I remember years ago when I was helping to direct Ananda in San Francisco, that back then we got a call from my mother or my father that my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, and their daughter were killed in a car accident. There was a head-on collision with a drunk driver driving on the wrong side of the freeway. And, you know, immediately there is an emotive response, because this is real. It isn't just some story that's out there. It's real to us. But again, I remember just praying about it and tuning into that, you know, let go of that emotional attachment to it and be in that mode that shifts from that into the expansive care compassionately to those souls. Because the souls need to ascend into the astral realm. And if there's attachments, then they will be held bound, at least for some time. And so we, in that situation, become the instruments to bless the souls on their journey beyond this physical plane. That's a tremendously powerful tool. I mean, one, it nurtures us and gives us a sense of that we can act as that open instrument of love and care, even when they're not present in their bodies anymore. And when that happens, then faith becomes a certainty in our lives. It becomes something we know as our experience. We're not just affirming it, not just hoping we'll have faith. We know it, we feel it, we experience it, and we can go forward with it. It's a tremendous thing to be in that mode, because prayer is enlivened because we bring to it an expanded consciousness. It's also enlivened and animated when we bring our heart's devotional energy. Not so much our emotional energy from the heart, but that shift into an expansive, less attached mode of devotion in that way. You know, it's like this prayer. I remember this from years ago when Dennis the Menace comics used to be. Well, nobody reads comics anymore. So if you don't know who Dennis the Menace is, I'll tell you. But he's a young, obnoxious, energetic child. And he's always doing mischievous things. But this cartoon strip was him coming out of a church and the minister saying to him, "So Dennis, do you say grace, do you say prayers before you eat your food?" And his response is, "I don't have to. My mother's a good cook." And we can appreciate that and take it into our lives, where it's not about not praying or praying. It's that God is like the mother to Dennis. God is a good experience always for us, even when we're tested, even when we face the challenges that are guaranteed to happen in our lives. Because the tests, the challenges, are really the given opportunities for us to grow. It's the friction that allows us to smoothen out our hard edges with other people. It allows us to come into the deeper sense of peace and harmony, rather than just the sense of, yeah, a little peace, that's great. But no, the depth of that experience becomes our own in that way. And, the idea of faith is used for most people as not much different than belief. But Yogananda pointed out that belief is the beginning phase of opening up to faith. Faith is the experience of something. Belief is the hope or the affirmation for something. But when we have that experience from believing in something, then we have faith. That's the reality we live in. And when we have that faith, it is infectious. It does really spill over into those around us, whether they're close to us or just a stranger, we encounter, that we really have that experience. I've been using this technique when I fly. You may think it's obvious, but it isn't obvious for a lot of people. But I always try to see if I can help put someone's luggage up into the overhead bin. And I fly a fair amount. And this last flight from Sacramento here was the first flight in years that didn't happen. Very fascinating, because everyone had lighter, luggage pieces, or they didn't have any, so there wasn't a problem. But I thought, let me keep my eyes open, my heart open, to can this be a way that I offer to someone in a situation where they're having a hard time with this heavy piece of luggage, getting it up overhead. And I thought, but I can be there. And what's happened all those times is that people are overabundantly appreciative. They're not just saying thank you. It's as if I help raise their child or something. But all it was a simple gesture that became an expression from that experience. And when we have these things happen in our lives, we can find them always possible to be manifest. Because I was thinking when I was doing that, not just that I was doing it, I was thinking that this is the grace that's coming to me that I can share with other people. And it's activated. One of the most powerful tools is healing prayers, as I start to say about my friend Krishna, that healing prayers allow us to hopefully step aside from I want an outcome, as I said earlier, and step into the role of saying, Thy will be done. Isn't that interesting? that we're praying that God's will be done, whatever that might be. And as we work with that more and more, we develop a very keen faith and trust in the right things will happen. Even if the timeline doesn't coincide with our timeline, or the specifics don't coincide with what we were thinking should happen in that way. But those are just blips or speed bumps along the way. But we keep moving in the right direction, we're going to draw even more of that magnetism from the divine. And we're going to be instruments more and more for that divine touch to other people, in our magnetism, in our self-offering, in our compassion for people. But many times I've found that I belong to the healing prayer ministry from Ananda Village, and you here have your own healing prayer council here. But there we get 3 names by email usually from those that have asked to be prayed for. And I, of course, don't know most of them, like 90% of the time. They're just names on a piece of paper, and there's a brief description saying, you know, from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and that I'm dealing with, you know, severe headaches, or I'm dealing with emotional challenges, and that's it. And just pray for their body, mind, and soul. And so there's no visual context. There's no kind of connection on that level, personal-wise. But I found that sometimes that actually helps the power of prayer, because I'm just tuning into, in a sense, a spark of the divine in that soul, a spark of divine spirit in that divine soul. And I feel when I'm doing the prayer in this way that it's almost like it creates more of an opportunity for me to offer without any expectation. And I'll never hear. You know, we never hear if those people get well or get through their challenges, or they don't. And so there can't be this relationship, well, let's see how they did. It's just the purity of the soul to the soul. And when we have that happen, that is the experience of faith enlivened in us. It becomes real. It's not a spiritual concept anymore. It's a spiritual experience, a spiritual reality. And each one of us in our own way can find how we activate, animate our lives with that experience. That's something we can tune into that makes it unique for us, and that we touch the world around us through that experience. But that's important that we actually, in a sense, take this on, because the world will benefit and we'll benefit from being that instrument. So in your heart of hearts, in your awareness, in your life, in every part of who you are, let this become that the prayer is a call to faith, and that faith is a call to prayer. And let them integrate, and you feel you indeed are a child of God. Many blessings.